Instagram stories last night, because my sister texted me and she's like, I'm going to start a Housewives franchise from the beginning. Which one should I watch? So when Milo was born, I fell into a reality TV
The best.
binge watching. And I was so determined I would watch Hey You every night before I fell asleep on my phone like a weirdo in bed. And I started all the most of the franchises from season 1, episode 1.
Amazing.
So I think the first one was New York, which is huge. There's so many.
So many.
Yeah.
Do you want to know the craziest thing?
Yeah.
So everybody knows I'm a reality TV junkie.
Yeah.
And you saying that you started when you had Milo just makes me think, why do they not advertise to pregnant people? Because that's when I started like binging reality TV too. Because I used to watch it a lot, but you didn't have that much time when you're like working and out and about and whatever. But how many hours do you spend breastfeeding where I'm twiddling my thumbs like, I need something to do?
Yeah.
That's how I started watching.
You're at home with a newborn. Like, even if you're recovering, you're sitting like watching. You want shows to watch.
Yes.
So yeah, I did New York, which was great. And then I did Dallas. I did Salt Lake City. Those were shorter.
Which are also really good though.
And then I did New Jersey, caught right up, like not too long ago, right up to the end.
So good.
So I was thinking about it and I'm like, like, is it New York or is it New Jersey? Like, that's where I went. I didn't even go to Beverly Hills or the other one, Orange County.
Love Orange County.
Maybe because those ones I watched when they first came out. I was kind of keeping up with them. So that was a long time ago. Whereas New York and New Jersey are fresh in my mind because I just watched the whole series recently.
True.
So I find, so anyways, here's the whole thing. I put up a poll and I was like, I told my sister New Jersey after thinking about it. And I was so jealous that she was going to get to watch it from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And then I put it up and I was like, do people agree? Yes or no? And I am shocked and aghast that people don't agree that New Jersey is the best.
Yeah.
So I said, you know what, guys, I got sleep last night and I am going to write a thesis on why New Jersey is the best. Because even you messaged me right away and you were like, no, Beverly Hills.
Yeah, because immediately I pressed no. So the thing that I was going to say, that the craziest thing is that I'm a huge Real Housewife fan. I've never watched New York.
Oh,
so I just had to, ever. I know. I tried watching it from like kind of mid, like one of the middle seasons. I just couldn't get into it. So that's like one of the only ones that I've never watched.
That's wild that you're such a Housewives fan and you've never seen New York.
Yes.
Okay.
So wild. So that's just like a little precursor to this. But immediately I saw your story and was like, no, this like not New Jersey. Because in my head, when someone is like, what's the best Real Housewife franchise? I always say Beverly Hills.
And why?
Because the drama is amazing.
I would say the outfits. Like
I was just about to say the clothes are good.
This is why I like watching that franchise is like the outfits, seeing what they do, like their lifestyle. Because for us living in Canada, I feel like New York is very similar to Toronto. New York, New Jersey, like it's very similar.
Yeah.
Whereas it's almost like we get to look at a different life that's very glamorous for us.
I was gonna say like the glam squad, the hair, like
it's totally different.
Dorit is always in something new.
Yeah,
like I love that. I also think they include families a little more, which I like, and there's more spin-offs from Beverly Hills than there is from anything else. Vanderpump.
Okay, let's be honest.
Also, like, Kyle's whole family has a
yes.
There's more things going on, but Vanderpump
yeah, that's like the ultimate.
The ultimate.
Yeah. So here's why New Jersey is the best. Okay, the family dynamics of New Jersey is unmatched.
Yes.
And it's so, especially lately in the newer seasons of Beverly Hills and Orange County and stuff, it seems fabricated.
Fair.
And I can't remember what it was like when it first started, but those people are already like well-established like some of them are celebrities. Whereas New Jersey, it felt like regular people. And it was more like honest and real life, especially because they had the family I think it was season 2 or 3 where Melissa and Joe were kind of introduced.
Mhm.
And so Melissa is Teresa's sister-in-law.
Sister-in-law.
There is still drama between the families, which, like, okay, it's sad, but, like, if we're looking at it from an entertainment perspective,
Yeah, which we are.
like, I'm
Let's be real.
sorry this is happening to your family, but
Yes.
yeah, like, thinking back to what was it, the baptism
Yes.
of who was it? Joe's son or Teresa's? I don't remember, but there was a baptism,
Yeah.
a whole family fight, like,
Yeah.
it was nuts. And then on top of the family is the husbands.
Yes. I was gonna say like the baptism, but also jail twice.
The whole oh my god, yes.
2 people going to jail.
Yes.
Like, also just so much family dynamic
Mhm.
that you're then introducing other friendships and relationships. But you're right, the men being involved is kind of
Yeah.
the icing on
So,
top of
like,
the
the
cake.
New
Yeah.
Jersey husbands could have their own show. Like, they are literally I don't know about the earlier seasons, but definitely in the later seasons,
Yeah.
like
The
Joe
past 3, I feel
Gorga,
like.
Frank, like, they are as involved
Bill.
in the show, yeah,
Mhm.
as the wives are.
And they all have careers. Like, it's not like these guys are like
Bums.
yeah, they're not, like, doing this they just genuinely like each other, and they're hilarious. Like,
Yeah.
you almost have to include their content in this show
Yeah.
because it's so good.
It's the only Housewives franchise where the husbands are so involved. They will
Yes.
do whole scenes of, like, the husbands getting together on a Saturday night, and
Like,
it's
they
like
all wanna hang
they
out.
just
Yeah.
film the husbands.
Yeah. I
So
love it.
that's my thesis of why New Jersey would be the best one to start with from season 1, episode 1. Watch it through. It is shocking and it's so, 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 so good.
It's great.
If you had to, like, all of a sudden enter as a cast member to one Housewives,
Oh,
where would you go?
okay. Immediately, I was thinking Atlanta, but that would be way too much drama for me. Like,
Yeah.
there's drama and then there's whoa drama. I kind of think Salt Lake City
Yeah.
because I love the environment. I love the vibe. I love all the things that they do. It's like a little more chill in terms of like outings and hanging
Mhm.
out and the vacations they do. Like, it's fun, but still so much drama. But I feel like you could just be like a fly on the wall a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
there are characters that like sit back
Just befriend someone.
and it's kind of nice. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know where I
What
would
about
go.
you? Yeah.
I don't know. I was gonna say Beverly Hills just to be friends with Vanderpump, but she's not on the show anymore.
I know.
So
She's like,
yeah.
no,
So I don't even know.
but I love Kyle. I'm a big Kyle. Yeah.
Did they get divorced?
Are they together?
Yeah.
Okay, how is that a thing and now it's not? Are they together? I don't know.
I feel like as soon as there's smoke, there's fire. Is that the saying? But like
yeah.
all those things started coming out and then they were like, no, we're fine. Like we just
Yes.
had a rough patch and now we're fine. But I don't know where it stands now.
I have no idea.
That's a
I'm
good
interested to
question.
know.
Are they filming right now or is it done?
I thought they were filming, which was why I was thinking like, oh, we're maybe going to see some of this drama in.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know if they're together. I really like Mauricio though.
Me too, and I love them together.
I know.
They're like an OG couple, like so good. Kids,
Yeah.
family, businesses.
I know, but you also have to think like so good in real life or so good
I
for
like
the
to believe it's
cameras.
real life.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe
We must find out.
I don't I'll think about which franchise I want to join.
Okay, good.
Because I know they're gonna call me right away as soon as I disclose that information.
Obviously.
Okay, so now that we got that out of the way and I proved my point and wrote my thesis, school. This is Milo's first day of school. We're recording this in the morning on Wednesday. Your boys are not in school, but they started. So their daycare they're off for the summer and then they go back. So it's basically like a whole other school drop off. They have different teachers. So
Yeah.
what was were you nervous to drop them off? Like, how did it go?
Nervous.
Yeah.
So back to school is like a hard transition for everyone, I feel like, for parents and for kids. And also good. I was like reflecting on it the other day, thinking like you kind of have this excitement, like, oh, we're getting back into routine, which is great for me, great for them, great for my youngest too. But at the same point in time, it's like nerve-wracking and scary because it is the school calendar. They're off all summer. they're used to being home with us, and now all of a sudden they're not for 5 days a week from 8:30 till 3:30.
So did they bump up in a class level or something?
Yeah, so they go
Okay.
to Montessori school. It starts with toddler class, and this year they're in CASA. So it's more like they have activities each day. They do French twice a week. They do
Oh
yoga
my
and
god.
music once a week. Like they have learning periods where
Like
they're actually
structured.
exactly. And so, yeah, it's a little bit different for them than the toddler room. It's new teachers, like you said, and it's fostering even more independence than toddler class was. So it's a big change for them. And I was super, super nervous, more nervous than them
Yeah.
for sure. I think like part of the transition for me was explaining to them beforehand. So I was like showing them their new things, telling them how the day was going to go. It's nice because their school has an orientation day where you go with them the week before. So we all went. My
That's
mom and
helpful.
sister came. Callie came with us. My daughter, my husband came. So it was nice that they had all the people that they love that make them feel comfortable in their new space. And I think that that helped with the
Mhm.
transition for sure. You guys had an orientation too, right?
We had orientation, so nobody knows this, and my mom was like, "Don't tell people that Milo's going to private school because everyone's gonna hate you." I think
Oh,
she's, like, a little bit disturbed about the Reddit comments.
how could you not be? I mean,
I like, I
rough.
I find joy in those, and it actually,
I'm
like
glad.
it, like, gives me life. I don't know.
Good.
It's like if people aren't saying things like that, then you're not ruffling any feathers and you're
Yeah.
not, doing anything worthwhile. So to me, it's like, okay, whatever. But
Mhm.
my mom was like, "Oh, as soon as you say Milo's going to private school," but everyone knows I was debating between public school, private school, our whole like French immersion debacle. Like it was a whole thing.
Yeah.
So we didn't get into the schools in our area that we liked, like the
Mhm.
public schools. So we were like, we fell in love with this one school and we went with that for this year and we're going to see how it goes. And
Yeah.
whatever. But we did have, so yesterday was our orientation for half the day, which was great. And then we kind of lucked out because we signed up recently. It's not like we
Mm.
knew in the spring that he was going to go to this school. We've been to the school twice in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
He got to see his teacher both times. He got to like tour the whole school. So that really helped. It
So
wasn't like we
nice.
did that in the spring and then we had a whole summer and then all of a sudden he was going back.
Yeah.
So we lucked out. Our drop off this morning was totally fine.
Oh,
I was so nervous about uniforms because, put it this way, he
yes.
was going to school in costumes last
I
year
remember.
and
Yeah.
like pajamas. And I was like, oh, there's no way he's going to get dressed. And it's been fine so far. Like,
Amazing.
similar to you, like I was showing him all the stuff. I let him put his Mabel's labels like on all
Oh,
his stuff so
yeah.
that he felt like he was involved and he knew what was going to happen. And I think talking about things helps them prepare,
Mhm.
even if you can't go somewhere. Like, let's say the dentist, I would show him pictures of the office online.
Yeah.
I would watch YouTube videos,
We always
like
YouTube whatever we're
prep,
going to do.
prep. Like I was telling my friend, she was nervous for her kid to get on the bus.
Mhm.
It's like, watch YouTube videos of kids getting on the bus.
Yeah.
Like it helps so much
So
for them to
much.
prepare.
Yeah. Because then they know what it is. Like if they've never seen something like that before, they've never seen this classroom before, how can we expect them to just be totally cool going into it? We
Yeah.
get nervous in new spaces, doing
Yeah.
new things, and they're children. So, yeah, I think doing anything to prep is so helpful. And I think that helped us a lot this year.
I remember like you can order like kids because I was so nervous for the dentist.
Oh,
um, Ordering like kids little dental tools and they can like
yeah.
play in your mouth and asking him like, "Oh, like we're going to go see the dentist on Friday. Like how many teeth do you think you have?" Cuz he's
Mm,
going to count them. He's going to count
amazing.
them.
Smart.
And like this whole rigmarole. Same thing with like if your kid has never had a haircut and you're going to go to the hairdresser. Watch YouTube videos, like explain what's going to happen,
Mhm.
like get excited about it. And yeah, so we kind of have been doing the same thing for school this year
So
because
good.
we knew it was going to be a different experience for him.
Mhm.
Our drop off today was totally fine. My husband did it. Totally fine.
Amazing.
This school, it's you don't get out of the car.
That's wild to me thinking about that because I like to walk
Yes.
them in selfishly. Like, I want to see what they're
Yes.
doing. But I almost think that that's kind of better.
Yes. And I will explain why.
Okay.
I was nervous about it too. I'm like, oh, that's not going to fly. Like for
Mhm.
kindergarten, I would park, walk him to the classroom,
Yeah.
but then they linger, they latch on to you. If they're having a rough
Yeah.
drop off, it like becomes a whole thing.
Yeah.
and it's hard to escape.
Very.
So this school was like, oh, you just pull up and the teacher helps if they need help unbuckling, like they'll get them out of the car
Wow.
and take them. And I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be a nightmare. He went, no problem.
I don't know why my mind just went here, but do you ever feel nervous? Like, what if my car is a mess and the teacher's opening the door? And
Oh my God, never thought of it, but now that's in my head.
My car is just like, no, I clean it every week. I clean it more than anything else. No matter what, it's a mess because my children eat in the car.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then the second they get to a place, if they're not done, they throw it on the floor.
Yeah.
Yesterday there was ice cream in our car.
Yeah. So now that's in my mind for drop off. Thank you. Thank you for that.
I would be like, oh my gosh, I have to keep it in pristine condition.
But I was thinking about like when we have a little bit of a drive, usually we will give him his tablet. And even that I was thinking about. I'm like, oh, are they going to think we just like put a tablet in front of his head? But like, to be honest, his classroom has a massive like big screen TV.
Oh, great.
Like
I
hanging
think
on the
nowadays, like because screens are prominent in life, they teach life skills. So they teach that.
Like you're not going to get through life without using a screen.
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah. But it's funny that you said the car being dirty because I never thought of that
immediately. I'm like, no, not the car. They open the door for you.
Yeah, like no. Oh my God. So what was your, because we dealt with restraint collapse. Definitely when Milo did his week of camp, that was, we were like, oh, he's going to go to camp. He's going to be exhausted. Like he's going to come home, have dinner, go straight to bed. It was the complete opposite. It was one of the hardest weeks. And it's weird because like you were saying, when you would pick them up last year, they would just start crying.
Immediately. They saw me and lost it.
And I feel like that's common when they're younger. Because I remember when Milo was like 8, that was during COVID. So before COVID happened. So he would have been like just over a year.
Yep.
That's when I would walk into the daycare to pick him up and he would just start bawling. And the teacher explained to me, because I was like, oh my God, like I feel bad. Because as a parent, you want them to be excited and happy to see you. Yes!
Yeah. You see videos of that happening. You're like, what's wrong with my kid?
Yeah. Like, why are you crying? Do you want me to leave? Like, but it's the complete opposite. The teacher explained to me, even though I should know this because I have a degree in psychology with a specialization in attachment. But anyways.
Minor detail.
Yeah, minor detail. She was like, you're his safe space. So he's been bottling up all his emotions and they're not able to fully be themselves, like because they're not comfortable in their new environment yet. And so when you come to pick him up, it's like the floodgates open. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm going to cry. Yeah. But I find at an older age, like Milo's age right now, it happens later in the evening. Usually like when it's bath time and bedtime, like a switch flips, he loses it.
Yes. So our twins were the same. So they were in toddler class last year. So they're 2.5 now. Last year, like you said, immediately they'd see me all the way from across the classroom. I'd enter the door and immediately cry. And it wouldn't stop till we got home. Like it was wild. And I would say to the teacher, like, do they hate me? Yeah. Like, do my children just not like me? Like, it was this terrible feeling. You're irrational when you're in that kind of headspace, I guess. And so that was so hard for me. This year, they were so excited. This is day 2, people. Yeah. So it's not like there's no pattern yet. But they were so happy to see me when I got there. They were playing in the gym on their little cars when I got there. And they didn't get up. They wanted to keep playing. Yeah. Like they didn't even want
That's the best
to
feeling.
go home.
Like, yes.
Yes.
Like,
I'm like, oh, you're comfortable. Things are good. But you're right. In the evening, not Axel, but Oscar was just at bath time. He had this massive meltdown and I didn't know what to do. I'm like feeling so bad. Like once we finally got him into bed, I was in my bed bawling. Yeah. And I'm like talking to my husband saying like, obviously he felt uncomfortable today. He didn't feel like he could express his emotions. Now he is, and I can't support him. And, you just start spiraling. Like I felt so terrible and so bad. But I do think that once I kind of started thinking more rationally, it's part of the transition. They have such big emotions and they don't have the tools yet to cope with them. And it's hard as a parent to just want to be like, listen, like, it's okay. This is what's happening. Like everything's good. You're loved. We're here. But for them to understand that at all times is really, really hard. So I think I'm trying to switch my mindset to give them and myself more grace to just be able to feel how they feel, to say it's okay to cry for a little bit
Yeah.
and to try to talk through it more instead of it being a meltdown that we can't control.
And I feel like we're all so wired to be like, there's a negative emotion, shut it down.
Yep.
Like, I don't want this happening. Like, you want to fix it
Mhm.
instantly.
Yep.
And it's the same thing like with relationships. If
Mhm.
I'm in a bad mood, it's like my husband's trying to fix it. And I'm like, it's not fixable.
Yeah.
You know? Like, it's
Exactly.
not fixable.
Just let me fix
It's the
it.
same
Yeah.
with kids. Like, we're allowed to have these feelings. That's like when
Mhm.
I'm feeling super anxious, sometimes I have to just remind myself, like, okay, like it's just your body trying to tell you something and not to like try and shut it down or like waste time thinking like, oh, like why am I feeling this way? Like this is,
Yeah.
I just want it to stop. And it's the same with them. But as parents, they're having a restraint collapse moment and we're trying to help. But I don't know how it is with your boys at 2.5, but
Mhm.
now at Milo's age, if he's having a hard time like that, we can't even, because I always remember someone, and I don't know if it was Mr. Chaz, he was saying like in a moment like that, they need connection.
Mm.
Like that's what they want is
Yeah.
connection with a loved one, like their parent. So then you try and offer that and it escalates the meltdown or the emotions that they're having. And so I'm like, okay, well, now I'm in between a rock and a hard place because I can't give him connection or like even be near him because he'll escalate.
Mhm.
But then if I give him space and leave him, now I feel guilty for not trying to help him.
Totally.
It's like you can't win.
There's no winning.
Yeah.
And there's no like for me, it's hard to see the end at that point. Like I'm like,
Oh yeah.
I can't do anything. Like probably 4 times last night I looked at Mike and said, "What do I do?" Like I'm lost. I don't know what to do. If I hug him, he doesn't want to be hugged. If I leave him, he doesn't want me to leave him. If I do what he
Mm-hmm.
says, then he doesn't want that anymore.
Yep.
And then also, he's sometimes he knows how to prolong then the bedtime because he wants to spend time with you, but it's like if I keep giving into those things, then
Yeah.
it's a cycle.
And are
Like
you like creating
bad habits
that?
because
Yeah.
then he's wanting to go downstairs. Well, we're already like we've had a bath, we're in our bed. We're not now going to wake up again and go back downstairs. Like,
Yeah.
you know? And it's that constant, do I give in because I know then it will make him feel better and I want him to feel loved and happy? Do I have firm boundaries because that's important too? And then I just feel like crap.
Yeah. So speaking of all this like restraint collapse, meltdown stuff, I and it's funny because that has probably happened like a handful of times. And I know that I struggle with it but I never actually sit down and like formulate like, okay, why am I having a hard time with this? Like
Mhm.
what is happening? And so once I like organized my thoughts about it, I was like, I need to get Tanya on the podcast to talk about just this topic and like what exactly do we do in this situation? Because
Mhm.
and like I'm gonna explain to her like I'm gonna be like devil's advocate because if you say like we should do something, I'm gonna tell you what's gonna happen if I tried to do that. So
Yeah.
now what do I do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I feel like that's what's missing in a lot of parenting content on how to manage big emotions and stuff is
Mhm.
like, okay, but if you try that and it escalates, now what? Like,
You're so right. Because sometimes I follow a lot of these like parenting, like whatever accounts and I try to use the strategies that they're showing. And a lot of the time it's a kid melting down. It's them using some type of strategy and then the kid does it and is happy. And I'm like, that is not how it goes in my
yeah,
house.
yeah,
I try, doesn't work. I try again in a different way, doesn't work. I try again, now he's screaming even louder. I try again, now I'm losing my marbles. So it's like, and
exactly.
then that's not helpful for
Yeah.
anyone.
And it's like a
So
vicious
it's true.
cycle.
Like sometimes things like that work. There's one, I don't know who I saw post this, but it was a reel that I saw and I use it with my children and it works a lot of the time because they need to regulate their breathing. They need to just like calm down, but they don't have the ability to do that themselves. So we blow out the candles. They'll be crying. I'll say, "Are you ready to blow out the candles?" And sometimes it takes a few asks and then I put my fingers up and they blow out
Oh,
each
that's
candle.
so
And if they're not
good.
doing it, taking a deep enough breath, I'll say, "Oh, that wasn't hard enough. These are big, big candles." And they'll blow out the candles and that helps calm them. And that's a technique that we use often.
Huh.
Sometimes it's more triggering for them. And I
Yeah.
don't know which time it's going to be good and which time it's not going to be good. And that's the thing is that a strategy that might work 90% of the time
But what do you
doesn't
do
work
when
all.
it doesn't? Yeah.
Exactly. Now what step do I take? And I don't know what that
Okay,
is.
what would you do in this scenario? I was gonna tell you this earlier this morning, but I wanted to tell
Oh.
you what happened on the microphone. So yesterday was the orientation day. We had a great day. I was with him the whole time.
Mhm.
We came home, everything was great. We got dressed, like we changed out of our clothes. We went to Walmart, got stuff for his party. Came back home. We were playing this thing where I was being the baby and he was like putting me to bed because I was
Aw.
fucking tired yesterday.
That's a great game when you're feeling tired.
I was like, "Where do you want mommy to sleep?" He's like, "In my bed." I'm like, "Okay,
Perfect.
I'll be the baby and you." And yeah, so anyways,
Genius.
that's what was happening. And then all of a sudden, so he's downstairs like getting his party bags for his friends ready, and I go downstairs, I'm sitting on the couch and I don't even he I got these little Mario figurines and they were in like a packaging
Mhm.
that was for the gift bags. And he's like, "Can I open this?" And I said, "No. Like that's for your friends. That's going in the gift bags. You cannot open that." And then he's like playing stuff and then he asked me again. I said, "No, you're not opening those." He opens it anyways. Okay?
Mm.
And so I didn't even have like a big reaction because I know that that will just like set him off.
Yeah.
And so I was like, "You know what? Like mommy asked you not to open those and you didn't listen.
Mhm.
Okay. And like, mommy's going to tell daddy, not that daddy would do anything,
Yeah.
but like, I'm going to explain to daddy, like, we might have to go to the store now and get another one." And I think sometimes it's almost worse when you don't have reaction and you
Mhm.
explain it and then they feel bad
Yeah.
because then I could tell like he felt bad. Like he knew that he
He's
shouldn't have
thinking
opened it.
about it. Yeah.
Yep. And, so I'm sitting on the couch. I was just editing some stuff. And he goes, "Just put on my fucking show." And I'm like, "Oh, what?"
Oh, no. Oh.
Like, "What did you just say?" Like,
Mhm.
again, I'm trying not to have like a big reaction.
Yeah.
"What did you just say?" And he's like, "Put on my fucking show." And I'm like, "Oh my God, I don't even." This is one of those situations where I'm
What do you
like,
do? Yeah.
"Holy shit. Like, what do I do?"
Well, did you laugh? Because
No,
immediately when my children swear, I cannot.
it caught me so off guard. Like, nobody's talking. I'm editing my little fucking videos. "Just put on my fucking show." I'm like, and he said it like 3 times. I was like, "You do not
Oh
say
my
that
gosh.
again. You
Yeah.
say that one more time, you're gonna go to your room."
Mhm.
I was like, "We've had a really good day. Like, I don't know." I was like, "You asked mommy if you could open that." I said, "No." And you didn't listen. And now you're upset.
Mhm.
But like, what do you do?
I don't even know.
Okay. Like, I don't know either.
Immediately, I would do what you said. Like, that is not okay. That's not what we say, and this is not what we do. I think it's really good that you went over the steps of what happened
And
because
why
he's
he went,
probably trying to think that too.
mm-hmm.
I'd probably try to validate the feelings. I know you're feeling upset or angry
Okay.
or embarrassed maybe. I don't know. Like, in my immediate reaction, it feels like there should be some type of punishment,
Yes.
but then that's what I'm struggling with right now because mine are only 2.5.
Yeah.
What punishment works? I can't
What
put
do
them
you
in a
do?
timeout because
I feel like I would have got a bar of soap in the mouth.
I would have for sure in a little spank.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah,
oh my
or
God, if I
big.
ever said that to my
Yeah.
dad when I was
Oh,
little,
my mom would be fine. My dad,
like, not gonna happen.
bad news bears.
And it's funny. So what day is today? Oh, so tomorrow my episode with my mama comes out.
Mm.
We were talking about parenting like then versus now. And that's like one of the things that she brought up. Like, she's like, "I feel so bad for you parents
Oh,
today
yeah.
because you can't fucking do
Can't do
anything.
anything.
Nothing."
Literally nothing.
Like, and I was like, "You're so right." I said, "Sometimes Milo does something. That's the perfect example."
Yeah.
And I'm fucking frozen because I'm like, "What do I do?" Like, I want to smack him, but
Mhm.
no, I'm not gonna do that. Okay, so I will just sit here frozen like a deer in headlights because he told me to turn on his fucking show and I don't know how to react and I'm the parent.
And now that I'm not reacting, now he's gonna think he can keep doing that, right? Like, that's the thing is that
Like,
you
hold
have to
on,
think
Milo, let me go
forward.
read a book and figure out how I'm supposed to respond to this.
Pause here. Chapter 12. Yeah.
Like, I
No,
know.
it's so difficult.
And at the same time, I don't want to be like, that's it, get in your room. Like, I'm bringing him to his room and
Yeah.
make it a whole big fucking thing. Because at the end of the day, that happened. Eventually, then he started, because I wasn't having a reaction to him swearing.
Mhm.
Then he started throwing the packaging that he took off at me.
'Cause he's looking for a
He
reaction.
wants me to lose my mind. And so I closed my laptop, walked upstairs, which I can do with him at this age.
Yeah.
Walked upstairs, and then eventually he, like 5 minutes later, came upstairs and he was totally fine. It was over. So in my
Yes.
mind, I'm always like, do I want to ruin the rest of the day?
I know.
But then it's like, is that like, it shouldn't be like, oh, I don't want to be upset. I don't want him to get upset. I don't want it to be a whole thing. Like, so you just don't do anything. But I never know what the right thing to do is.
That's where I'm at right now, and my husband and I talk about this a lot because he's like, "You just gotta go through with it for, like, a few weeks, like, be more strict and more stern for a few weeks, and then they're gonna start to understand that those things don't fly."
Yeah.
Like hitting or kicking or biting, like, those were things that we were going through with them recently, and, but I was like, "But then my whole night is ruined." And my other thing to that is I have a younger child that needs me. Like, I'm still breastfeeding Callie. So I can't have a child on me screaming for 3 hours when she has to be fed every 3 hours
Mm-hmm.
because it's physically impossible. So then what? I have to leave my home with my baby to feed her because I've decided to be strict with my
Yeah.
son who can't handle it. Like, I don't know. That's something I'm struggling with a lot right now. I don't know what the right answer is.
Yeah. Maybe you should sit in on my interview with Tanya.
Can I? I'll just sit in the corner and
It's like
listen.
it's like free help.
I need it.
Yeah, yeah,
Give me
seriously.
more.
Okay, before we run out of time, I wanted to talk about, and it's funny because I met Ariana. How old were the boys?
I was
You were
pregnant with
pregnant with Callie,
Callie,
yeah.
so they were, like, maybe
A year and a half?
yeah, 18 months,
Yeah,
I would say.
okay. So I have actually never heard the story about your birth with the twins. I know more about your birth with Callie,
Yeah.
but they are quite different experiences.
So different.
So let's talk about the birth with the twins first
Mhm.
and kind of how that, which I didn't know, but you told me that it was kind of like the thing that started your social media stuff.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, so take it away.
Yeah, so it's wild to think about. I think about it often, um, because it was so life-changing for me.
Did you do IVF?
No.
Oh, okay.
So
So
we
every time
got
someone has twins, I'm like, did they do IVF? Yeah.
always the question I always is it natural? So I did not ever expect to have twins, ever. It's really wild. Um, but we found out we were having twins. We kind of got used to the idea, I guess, a little bit, but I think you never know what it's going to be like till you're in it. But with twins, they often say they're going to come early, right? Like full term with twins is 37 weeks.
Mm.
I had combined care. I had a midwife and an OB because I had opted for a midwife when I found out I was pregnant. And then when we found out it's twins, you're automatically deemed high risk.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And so you cannot have a midwife.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, the midwifery clinic that I was a part of had a good relationship with one of the OBs in town who I absolutely love. And I could have combined care. So I did have appointments with both, which was really nice because it was also a pandemic. So my access to
Oh,
anything was very small.
yeah.
And so having those extra appointments actually were really, really helpful. But my birth was what I would say quite
Did
traumatic.
they induce you?
No, I went into natural labor at 33 weeks and 4 days.
Okay, wow.
So really early. And my OB had always said to me, you got to make it to 34 weeks because 34 weeks is when their lungs are fully developed. Before that, um, wasn't even sure if I'd be able to deliver at our hospital in town. I'd have to go to a specialized hospital because definitely need extra care. So I always had in my mind, okay, 34 weeks, 34 weeks. I always measured really big, which apparently is a controversial thing, having big babies, because everybody assumed there would always be complications with big babies. Everybody always assumed that I had gestational diabetes because I had big babies. It was like this big thing, which I didn't.
Like, you mean when they did the ultrasound, the babies were big
Always
inside?
measured large, always over the 99th
Oh,
percentile for both
wow.
pregnancies. So my boys were born at 33 weeks, 5 days, and they were 5 pounds, 10 ounces and 5 pounds, 11 ounces, which like some full term twins
Milo was
aren't
6
even that big.
pounds.
Yeah. So like I had huge babies. I just make big babies. But I didn't have gestational diabetes, thankfully. Like there's so many
Did you
factors that
deliver in Guelph?
I did deliver in Guelph because I was so close to that 34-week mark
Ugh,
that they were like, okay.
ugh.
So basically what happened, I was losing my mucus plug. I had never seen blood in my entire pregnancy except that night. And it was like 2 in the morning. You know, at that stage of pregnancy, you're going to pee like
Mm.
17 times in a night. So it was like not normal for me to be awake in the night. But I saw blood and I was like, oh, this is weird. And then that mucus plug. So I kind of was like feeling fine. So I went back to sleep. I'd had Braxton Hicks my whole pregnancy. So it wasn't abnormal for me to feel crampy or tight or anything like that. And it was my birthday.
Mm.
So I woke up, it's a pandemic birthday. I can't do anything. I'm so uncomfortable and so pregnant. And I had actually just had an ultrasound where they kept me for like 3 hours because they were trying to get a hold of my OB because my cervix had shortened and they couldn't let me go. So I wasn't on bed rest, but I was on modified bed rest. So like my daily activity was walking to the end of my driveway and back.
Fun.
Terrible. So, anyways, my birthday, I'm like feeling a little bit weird. I remember texting a friend being like, I'm not sure if this is contractions or not. She's like, time them. And they were like really close to each other and very consistent. And I felt a lot of pressure. So I called my mom, who was coming to watch a movie with me because that was the only thing we could do for my birthday.
Woohoo.
And I was like, I don't think you should come because I think I'm going to maybe go to the hospital. Like, I think I'm feeling like really like I might be maybe in labor. But I didn't want to like believe it or say it because it was so early. So my friends are dropping off like McDonald's and Starbucks and all my favorite stuff. And I'm like, guys, I'm leaving. Like I'm not at home. So I called my midwife. They were like, no, you're not in labor. Way too early. Called my OB once I started timing the contractions and she was like, come to the hospital. So I went in. Mike couldn't come with me because it's a pandemic. And also
Mm.
in triage, they only let one person go, I think. So they were full at triage, like there were no beds. So my OB was so amazing. She like opened a closet and made like a makeshift room to check if I was like dilated and in labor. She's like, yeah, we're going to check you in. So I think I was like 3
So
centimeters
this
then.
was an emerge and not in labor and
This was
delivery?
labor and delivery.
Oh.
Yeah.
And they had no rooms in labor and
No, it
delivery.
was like a really busy
Oh
day.
my God.
Lots of babies. So finally we got admitted. Mike was able to come in. We're in a room and they gave me a couple of steroid shots because the boys' lungs were not developed. Like because it was so early, they want that to be in your body for a while for you to be able to, for them to be stronger or whatever. So yeah, went in, I was in labor. It was a really busy day at the hospital in labor and delivery. So they were trying to kind of prolong me, I think. A lot of it's a blur, I think, because it was so scary for me. You know, my mom couldn't be there. It was just Mike and I. We had never experienced something like this before because it was twins and they were early. It was high risk. With twins, you have to deliver in the operating room. You don't deliver in a labor and delivery room,
Vaginally as well?
vaginally as
Because
well,
it's high risk and they assume that
just
you
in
could,
case.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
And they really strongly recommend you having an epidural because of the same thing. They don't want to have to knock you out if you have to have a
Yeah.
C-section and then you don't get to see your babies or meet them. So I had my epidural. It was the worst experience of my life, the
That was the
epidural.
worst part of giving birth for
The
me.
worst part, and no one talks about this.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, give me the epidural. I want to feel nothing. You feel everything for the epidural.
The
Like it
epidural,
feels.
they had to do mine twice.
So this happened to me, I want to say 4 times.
Ugh.
And the freezing didn't work a bunch of times. So the freezing was awful. Then they couldn't get it in. And I'm like, my husband tells me I was screaming in agony. Like I could not handle it. He was getting so frustrated because she kept missing
Ugh.
that like I had this amazing nurse and she came and actually grabbed Mike, set him down, was like, just wait here. And she held me because it was just so terrible. So, anyways, I had an epidural. We tried to sleep for a while. It was, they were really pushing me off because they wanted me to be the last birth of the day because they needed all hands on deck. They knew that the babies were going to need extra care. So they needed, a person for each baby. They needed the OB for me, and she has her people. And so there were a lot of people. So we ate my birthday cake in the hospital. This is my birthday. We relaxed, hung out, tried to sleep. Mike slept. I did not. I was just like all in my feels, I think, and just so
Mhm.
nervous and scared. And then they say, okay, it's time. So we go into the operating room. It's like these huge bright lights, so
Mhm.
many people. Like it's a pandemic. I haven't been around more than 3 people for months. And there's like 20 people in this room. And
So the intention was that you were gonna push to
yes, I really
vaginally?
wanted to have a vaginal birth,
Yeah.
and my OB was so great with me in trying to achieve that. And she was like, "We're gonna try everything," because I know a lot of people with twins are like, "Just have a C-section. Let's just book a date, induce you, or just book a C-section." But I really wanted to have a vaginal delivery, and so I did. But both boys were sunny side up, so
Okay.
their head is up instead of down, which is a lot of back labor, and they can get more stuck. So Oscar was really, really stuck. So I pushed for 3.5 hours. And my contractions at that point, because they had pushed it off for so long and because he was taking so long, were just so weak and so far apart. Like I was pushing like 4 times per contraction and then nothing for like 5 to 10 minutes, like quite a long
And
time,
so
just
was
waiting in
there a
between.
concern about him being stuck and them being under stress?
I think so.
Yeah.
It One of the nurses was looking a little more concerned. My OB had been on like a really long shift and she had just been out of birth. So she was like falling asleep in between contractions, standing up. Like she would close her eyes in between every contraction because she had no energy left either. And I was like, I've got nothing left here. I was getting hot and cold and hot and cold. And I was just like, I don't know what to do. And I remember looking at her and being like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I don't know how I can physically do this anymore. And so I did have an episiotomy.
Mm.
She was like, "I think I can maybe just cut a little bit if that's okay with you, and it will help." Like, he's really stuck. So, had an episiotomy. He came out, and it took me 17 minutes to push Axel out after Oscar. I didn't know the sex of each baby, so it was really exciting to hear, like, it's a boy. Um, Mike told me I wanted Mike to be the one to tell me if it was a boy or girl, and then immediately, there's no delayed cord clamping because they can't breathe. They don't have lungs that are developed. They're like way too early. Um, so I looked at him for like maybe 3 seconds and Mike cut the cord and then he was taken away right away. Like I don't even think I really
This is
got time.
Axel?
This was Oscar.
Oscar.
And so they take him to like another space. Like I can kind of see them around him, but I can't see the baby. So I immediately was like, Mike, go. Like, don't stay with me. I want you to go with the baby. I need to know that my baby's okay. Also, you're feeling, like, terrified because your baby's taken from you, but I was feeling so empowered that I just pushed a human out of my body. Like, it's this huge mix of emotions that I just didn't even know how to feel,
Mhm.
but then you're ready to push the next one. So I did feel like a superhero. Like, I just gave birth to a human. I can do this. So 17 minutes later, I pulled Axel out of me. Like, my OB was like, "Ariana, your baby's coming." And there's, like, a picture of me, like, pulling down and pulling him out onto my chest. It was, like, the most empowering moment of my entire life.
That's
It was
crazy.
so incredible. And then he came out and his mouth was I have this picture ingrained in my mind, but his mouth was open and no sound was coming out. And I was like, "Is he okay? Is he okay?" Like, I can hear myself, like, saying that a million times. Mike cut his cord, they took him, and then I was like, "Go with him." And then we got taken out. So, like, our babies were gone. We got wheeled back to our room, and I didn't see them for quite a bit.
Like, how long?
Probably just a few hours, I think.
Ugh.
But in that time, like, a few hours is, like, those are your bonding moments that you're, like, for 9 months have been dreaming about, and I just so badly wanted to see, like, what do they look like? Who are these human
Yeah.
beings that I've been connected to? They were separated from themselves or from each other, and I was thinking, like, they've just had like all this time together and now they're not together. Like they need each other.
Do you know what they were doing for them?
So they were running every test possible, but also they both had CPAP, like the oxygen machines to breathe for them. They had to put feeding tubes in them because they couldn't feed. They were taking their blood, doing their bilirubin, like all of those things, and just making sure that they could breathe ultimately, I think.
Mhm.
Connecting them to monitors, putting them in the incubators. So it was wild. It was like such a I just wanted to see them. And because
Mhm.
you imagine holding your babies, you see all these people online holding their twins. Like I followed a million twin accounts because I didn't know anybody that had twins. And then we finally got wheeled in to see them. And they were both in opposite ends of the special care nursery. And just like you couldn't even see their face.
Mhm.
Like I remember seeing them and just feeling like I can't even touch them because I might break them.
Like they're full of medical equipment.
Yes. Like I had one finger touching their finger. And I was just like,
And you just wanna hold them.
yeah. So we were able to hold them that evening. Um, but for a short period of time. And for a long time, I just thought like, can I even change my baby's diaper? Like I didn't
Mhm.
feel like I could even like touch them, let alone take care of them. They couldn't breastfeed. They could not even take a bottle. And so you really are just watching people take care of these humans that you just birthed. And because it's a pandemic, my mom couldn't be there. No one else could come in. On day 3 or 4 of life, Oscar was having a lot of troubles. They called it food intolerance and they thought maybe he had an obstruction. So they took him to another hospital and we couldn't go with him.
Which
So
like
to
in
McMaster in
Oh,
Hamilton.
okay.
So Axel stayed at Guelph. Oscar went to McMaster and they have him in this little like travel like incubator thing that they take into the ambulance and you can't go. They were like, you can't go. Like because of COVID, you can't go in the car. And anyways, they wouldn't allow you to be in the room until he was all hooked up and all the tests were done anyways. So don't even drive behind the ambulance. Just go get lunch, wait a few hours and then go. And I was like, do you think that I can honestly eat something and relax while you've taken my child? Like it was this wild feeling. And he was there for 10 days. So for 10 days, they were separated. And so I immediately asked to be discharged so I could go and see where he was going. And once you're discharged, you're not a patient anymore. And during COVID, you can only have one support person per patient. So Mike and I couldn't go with each other to see the babies. And I was like still bleeding, like not able to, I think I had like 15 stitches. Like I can barely move. And I was driving myself back and forth and we were passing each other on the highway because I never wanted a child to be alone. Weren't allowed to sleep at the hospital because COVID. So
Like, what
we
the
would go
hell?
home and I would just like bawl in bed. I talking about Real
So
Housewives.
you guys were sleeping
Yes.
at home.
Yes.
Axel's at a hospital in Guelph.
Hmm.
Oscar's at a hospital in Hamilton.
Hmm.
And only one person could visit them at a time.
Yeah.
So you can't even be like with someone like
Can't be together. Like I had nobody supporting me,
exactly. That
even though they all wanted to. Like my brother and sister would be waiting in a car outside the hospital for me, wanting to take care of me, but I'm just wanting to be at the hospital.
mhm.
You know, Mike wants to just spend time together because he knew that my healing was important, but I just like couldn't even think about being anywhere
Ugh.
except with them. It was the craziest time. I remember him even calling my mom and being like, I don't know what to do, like with me,
Yeah.
because I was just I don't even remember those things. Like we talk about it. I've obviously been to therapy about it, but I don't remember
The thing that
being like
blows my
that.
mind is there's so many different situations that happen. Like the only thing that we're exposed to and that we expect to happen is you go into the hospital, you give birth, and then you stay there for a little bit and you go home with your baby.
Hmm.
Like that's the expectation. That's what's in everyone's mind.
Yeah.
When in reality, there are a million different ways that that will play out,
Hmm.
and there's zero support
Zero.
given. And this is for
Zero.
like anything that happens in like pregnancy, like having a miscarriage, like,
Hmm.
having kids in the NICU or like your situation being separated from your kid. There's zero support.
0.
which blows my mind. And in COVID, it was 10 times worse. And there's
Way
still
worse.
no support offered.
Yeah. It's absolutely terrible. Like, when I think back to some of the things that happened in terms of support, and for like, we expect people to breastfeed. And so your kid can't latch. Your kid can't even breathe barely. So they can't eat. So they tell you, okay, you have to pump this many times a day for this long. Make sure that you're doing it. Otherwise, your milk supply won't be in. But also take care of yourself. But don't take care of yourself too much because you have to get sleep, but you can't get enough sleep because you have to make sure that you're pumping every 2 hours. Like, it's an absolute mind fuck.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, the only thing that I could control was pumping. So I was wild about it. Like, I never missed a session. I remember my lactation consultant was like, "You can't sleep through one. Like, it's okay. You need to get rest." And I couldn't. I
Yeah.
was like
Because you're like, I'm going to do
so rigid.
this.
Yeah, that was the
Yeah.
only thing I could control. So I was like, this is how much I'm producing. This is what I'm doing. And it was like day 5 of life or something for the kids, day 5 postpartum. And I was at McMaster and I needed to pump. Mike was at Guelph with Axel and it was my time to pump. I had driven over and I was still getting used to the timing of everything and going back and forth. So I was past my time that I was supposed to have pumped. So it was like really important to me to do so. And I was looking around for like, is there like a pump room or somewhere that I can go? Like, where can I go to pump? They had taken all the chairs and couches out of the hospital because it was COVID. So nothing, like, there was literally nothing. And I remember sleeping on my pumping bag the first night that we were there on the floor of the hospital because there wasn't somewhere to sit, and Mike and I couldn't go in together. And that was the only time we went to that hospital together. Like, there was no support at all. And I asked a nurse, like, "Is there somewhere I can pump?" Because they had 2 pumping chairs, like, blocked off by a curtain, and they were both full. There's like 20 babies in each room, and there's only 2 spots for you to pump. And I was like, "Is there a spot that I can pump?" And she's like, "Sorry, no." And there was literally nowhere. My boobs were exploding. And nobody was like, "Let me problem solve for this girl," who I could not advocate for myself at that point. I was
Mm-hmm.
in a completely different headspace. Like, in my mind now, I'm like, why didn't you just say no is not an answer?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But there's a whole, like, with anything, like, this is
Wild.
not even just like with regard to postpartum and stuff. Like,
Mhm.
there's this power dynamic in Canada when it comes to healthcare
Mhm.
because it's free and because we're ingrained, like, it's like so many times people will go see a specialist and they're like, they have a terrible experience, but they don't feel like they can ask to see someone else because it's like, you're lucky you even got in to see this person.
It's so true.
Yes. And it's not like, it's not right.
Not at all.
And we feel like we should be grateful. Like, I'm always feeling like I have to justify why I want to get anything done. It's like, "Oh, you want blood work for this?" Like it's there's a weird power imbalance. So I can see where you went in and then you were just like, okay, like you feel helpless.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or trying to get information about my kid. Like, I remember calling and no one could tell me the schedule of my baby.
Yeah.
One time I went in to see, I had just gone and seen Axel, and now I was going back to McMaster to see Oscar and to drop off my milk because I was bringing breast milk back and forth. And you go in and you have to call. So you press a button and then someone answers, "Who are you here to see?" And then they let you through the door. And I'm like, "Hi, I'm Ariana Christie here to see Oscar Christie." And she can't find Oscar Christie.
That's comforting.
I literally was like, I almost fell on the floor. No one could find my baby. And they're not allowing you to be there with your baby the whole time. So, like, you have to leave. So I'm thinking, like, it was just the absolute worst feeling in the world. He had been moved. So they have different, like, whatever rooms of NICU babies. And he had been moved to a different stage, but I didn't know what that meant. So I thought he had gotten worse, not better. And no one could answer me. And then his nurse was on lunch. And so I couldn't see a nurse to talk to. And whoever was covering for her didn't know anything about him. And I just was like, when's the last time he ate? Has he had his diaper changed? Is he okay? Why is he in this room? No one could answer questions. It was just the worst time. during the
When
best time. Like, it's
How
so weird.
old were they when they could go home? Was Axel home first? Was
So they came home together. Thankfully, I've heard many times of one twin going home before
uh,
the other, and I can't imagine that because having them in two separate places was just absolutely terrifying. They came home the same time, and it was exactly 1 month from when they were
that's
in.
so long to be doing that kind of
Mhm,
life. And
mhm.
not to like I bitch and complain about having to bring Milo to his family doctor appointments
Totally.
when he was like 3 days old.
Mhm.
I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Like I'm bleeding, like I can't sit down properly."
So uncomfortable.
And you had a month
Mm.
of driving to Hamilton, to Guelph, like to see
And I think the hardest part was just that it was alone, and not because people didn't wanna support, but because you weren't allowed
COVID
to.
adds a different layer,
Exactly.
but like I wouldn't minimize what you went through.
Yeah.
Like you can't say like, "Oh, like COVID." Like even if
Yeah.
it wasn't COVID, like that's
Mhm.
fucked up.
Yeah.
Because my friend had her baby in Toronto and they were just talking about her baby having to be sent to another hospital
Mhm.
and she was like she still has like that's a big
Yeah.
like she was so upset and struggled with that for a long time. Just like the thought, because
Mhm.
I don't think she was with her in the same room. They had to take her somewhere for a little
Mhm.
bit. Like that was upsetting to her and like it
It's
stayed with her for a
terrible.
while.
It
And then
does.
there's no support offered. So if you're lucky
None.
enough to be able to get in to see a therapist, to be able to pay for help,
Mhm.
um, that's great. But it should be something that's like built in to the
And
system.
that should be recommended. Like, not one time did anybody tell me, "Hey, I think you should maybe go
Or
see a
like, how are
therapist,"
you
except my husband.
doing? Like
Yeah.
how like
How do you
it's
feel?
so messed up.
So messed up. It's it's absolutely terrible to think back now. And then also to have like, sometimes I feel embarrassed when I say, "Oh, my experience was traumatic." Like, I had a traumatic
No,
birth.
don't be
And
embarrassed.
because one midwife, I said to her, this is a whole other story, but I switched midwifery clinics for both pregnancies because of my experience with my first
Mhm.
midwife. Um, and I had gone back when I got pregnant with Callie to this midwife, and I had said to her, because I had a quite a traumatic experience, and she almost laughed at me. Like my experience was not that bad. And the reaction to this day makes me so
Pissed off.
angry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, and a lot of people, like, I think it's not a term I use loosely at all, but that experience to this day affects me
Oh,
a lot.
for sure.
And so it was traumatic.
It's the most vulnerable of time, like for a mom, especially that has given birth.
Mhm.
Like there's nothing more like it's you're like you said, like you're not in the right headspace.
Not at all. And I just kept thinking, like, what did I do? It's my fault.
Oh,
Did I eat a strawberry that I didn't wash? Did I walk too much that day? Did I do too many laps to the end of my driveway and back? Like,
yeah.
why did I give birth early? And a lot of times people will ask me, oh, why'd you go into birth so early? Why did you give birth so early? And that question to me hurt so much for really until I went to therapy because I thought, what did I do? It must be my fault. My body wasn't capable of housing and growing my children for long enough. And you should never think that way.
Mhm.
But probably if I never went to therapy, I to this day would think that,
Mhm. No, I'm
right?
sure there's lots of women that carry so much.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people go through situations like that and they don't process what has happened
Mhm.
with like a third party, like a therapist or something. Um,
'Cause it's inaccessible.
mhm. Oh,
It
for
really
sure.
is.
Yeah.
Like, thankfully, I had funds to be able to pay for that,
Mhm.
but it's all out of pocket.
Yeah.
Like, why is there not support for that? You just went
You
through
would
something
think that
so
like something like
traumatic.
that happening, like the moment that they were taken away and you guys were wheeled into another room, there would be like a counselor
Yes.
in the room with you guys.
Yeah.
Like that's how it would work. Like if
Yeah.
somebody, I don't know how it works for like major accidents or something, like if someone's in like a major car accident and they're in the hospital and like is there help? Is there any kind of help given to
Mhm.
them or like somebody loses someone, like a grief counselor, like
Mhm.
there needs to be something in place, like a whole separate thing in place for parents, like new
I could not
parents.
agree more because it was yeah, like, even think I often think of what happened, but I don't always reflect on the feelings of it.
Mm,
So talking through this even now, it's like, that's just so wild to even think that we went through that, and then to think that you go back to life being normal. Like, I remember being at home and probably for 6 months after bringing them home, every time I walked down the stairs, I thought I was gonna drop one.
mm,
Every time. I imagined them being on the floor. Like, the anxiety that I had afterwards was so awful. I'd be holding them and think, "Oh, they're gonna fall." For like, I don't even know how or why, but obviously our brains work in a certain way. And again, thankfully, I could talk to my therapist about it, but it was like all consuming. Like, I always thought something was going to happen. I woke up all through the night for months after thinking, are they breathing?
mm.
Like, the amount of times I had my hand on their chest or my ear on their chest, I put those little outlet monitors on them every night because I
Paranoid,
couldn't sleep
yeah.
without them. If we went somewhere and forgot one, we were driving back home to get it because I couldn't have them asleep without that on them. Because you spend a month of them with monitors on.
Mhm,
How do you then go home and think everything's gonna be okay?
mhm. Oh, even with just like a regular,
Yes.
like people are paranoid, so I can't imagine
Yeah.
the level of, yeah, like worry.
Yeah.
Okay. I see, like, I had never heard that story, and I
Mhm.
knew that they were in the NICU, like, I've seen little things of your content here and there, and I was like, I've never
Mhm.
actually heard the whole
Yeah.
story. Okay, so next time you come on, like, now she lives nearby, so
Yeah.
obviously you
We
can come
have a friend
anytime.
now. Yeah.
So, because I do wanna hear Callie's whole
Yeah.
home birth.
I've never shared her birth either.
Yes, like, I wanna
Yeah.
hear that as well because it's a completely different experience.
So different.
Home birth, natural birth. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a cool story to
Yeah.
share. Okay. And then also on a future episode, I want to talk about marriage post kids. That was on my list
Yes.
too.
That's a huge topic for me right now.
Um, Before we finish, I listed out just some fun questions that I like to ask people.
Ooh.
Okay, so question number one. Yeah. Oh boy, we are chatty Cathy's. Okay. Okay, so
We
the
just love
first
hanging out.
the first question, if you had to be on any reality TV show, not Housewives, what show would you be on? Is it like Big Brother, Survivor? Like what's the vibe?
Below deck.
As what
For
job
sure.
though?
An observer. No, I'm just kidding.
You're like a guest.
No, maybe like a stew.
A stew, interesting.
Because I always think like, I watch that show and I think, "Oh, that would have been so fun." I always bartended during, like, my
Yeah, this
undergrad,
is where we
that
differ.
time in my
Yeah.
life. I loved it, and I traveled. I loved to travel, so combining the 2 and
Mhm.
getting to experience that, and also just, like, not having any care in the world except being on that boat, I would love that.
Okay. So this is where we differ because honestly, being a stew on Below Deck is my worst fucking nightmare because
I would love
we've
it.
talked about this before. I waitressed for 6 months of my life, and that is the worst job you could ever put me in. And Ariana's like, I loved
It was
it.
my best job. That was the best time.
Yeah. And so many people are like that. They loved waitressing and bartending. To me, I don't know what it is about me as a person, but like I hated it. And so, like, being a stew on Below Deck is times 10 because you're constantly serving the same people and you're
Yeah,
doing like a million different serving
I would
things.
love it.
If I had to have a job on Below Deck, I would be like the people outside. What are they called? The deckhands?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I would be that person. I would rather like scrub a boat
I could
than
never.
like serve people. Oh my God.
Total
Oh
opposites.
my God. Okay. So glad we got that out of the way. Um, fave fave. I wrote short forms on my notes here. So favorite meal.
Ooh, my favorite meal. This is weird. So my dad is Indian, my mom's Dutch, so I love Indian food.
Mhm, me too.
One of my favorite Indian things they have for breakfast a lot, I think, paratha, or my
What is
dad used
it?
to call it pranti, but it's like stuffed roti. And I like gobi paratha. So it's like shredded cauliflower mixed with spices. You saute it, and then you put it inside the roti. roll it out, put it on a pan. I'm gonna make it for you.
Yeah, please.
You will love
I
it.
did not know your dad was Indian.
Yeah. He was born in Punjab.
What the heck?
Yeah. I know.
Like, I did not know this.
Yeah.
That's
That's why I look
wild.
nothing like my mom.
That is wild.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make it for you sometime.
Milo's dad is also Indian.
Imagine. Funny thing is that I knew that.
Yeah. You knew that. Okay, what is something that you always have to have in your purse?
Chapstick.
Same.
Always. I have a
Which
nighttime.
chapstick?
Oh, it doesn't matter. I'm not picky. But my
interesting.
favorite is, but it's never in my purse because it's a little bit bigger. This is like my bedside table chapstick. Is the Earth Mama nipple butter. If you use that as
Oh.
chapstick, it is life changing.
Interesting.
Best thing ever.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Your celebrity crush. So not as a child, but
I was
as
gonna say
an
child.
adult.
As an adult,
Like, who do you just like love? I know who I love.
I would say, I'm obsessed since I was a child, but to this day, David Beckham. Love. I was like a soccer
Yeah,
player
I knew
when
that
I was
about
a
you.
kid, so that's like my jam. Also, Michael B. Jordan.
Yes.
Love. Those would be like my top two.
Okay, so mine is I have this like weird thing about Joe Jonas right now, and he's getting divorced. And I was like, oh my God, did he see me at the
It's
concert?
for me. Must have been that.
Yeah, my husband doesn't listen to the podcast, so I can say whatever the
Good
fuck
thing.
I want. Yeah, so like Joe Jonas, but I've heard in real life they're so
Really?
short. I don't even find him good looking. I
No,
just like
I
have this
don't.
weird thing about him right now.
Weird.
I think it's because I'm obsessed with their songs and I just
Okay.
saw them in concert.
So it's like top of mind.
Yeah, like I'm like, you know, a little bit
Fair.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
So yeah, like weird thing about Joe Jonas. I'm obsessed with the Jonas Brothers music right now. Like so obsessed.
Yeah.
But Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, I love Ryan Reynolds.
Like if somebody was like, okay, you need to marry a celebrity right now, like
because he's hot
Ryan Reynolds.
and his
He's like
personality.
a kick-ass dad. He's
Mhm.
like the best husband. Like from what I know, like from what I can tell.
Yeah.
Like so funny, like just like down
Did
to
you watch
earth.
him on the My Next Guest Is? David Letterman?
Yes.
That was my favorite episode.
Yeah.
So good. Love him.
Obsessed. I love
Mhm.
him so much. Okay, your dream job. If you were like gonna retire from like doing social media and like real estate and stuff, and you were like, you know what, I'm gonna spend the rest of my years doing something that like would be so fun and fulfilling, and like what would it be?
I think because Mike and I talk about this sometimes about like what will we do when we're not working.
Mm-hmm.
And I really love our community. You know, I'm a big Guelph fan.
Yes, you are.
I think I would just be more involved in volunteering with the nonprofits that I like to support, but in more of like an in-person capacity.
Cool.
Yeah. I used to, like, I always thought I would be a social worker. I really loved doing that. So I think going back to volunteering in roles that I used to when I had time
Yeah.
for children would be like when we talk about what we'll do, it will be that. Another thing I would love to do, like dream job, would be to run travel groups. Like organize a trip
My
and
mom
travel with them.
follows this Facebook account that's like women in their later years, like around my mom's age, that travel alone, and they make big groups and they go on these massive like Italy for 7 days or whatever it is.
Amazing.
And there's the person that runs it, plans everything out, like sets a price for every
So
single
cool.
person to join, and then it's like a whole itinerary. They do like cooking classes, like all this stuff.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's what I would love.
Yeah,
Because
totally.
like our honeymoon, I feel like everybody should go on. Like if I could just provide that to everybody.
Like package a trip. And,
Yeah.
oh my God, that's so cool. It kind of aligns with what I want to do, which is be like a travel review person.
Oh, yes.
It's like I'm obsessed with that. Like if I go to a restaurant, like I want like a detailed review of like the service, the food, like the everything. If I like go to a spa, I'm obsessed with like spas and hotels and resorts, and I'm such a fucking like, because I'm so high maintenance, I think I like can critique and tell people exactly how to make it more appealing to people and like a better experience. Like I would love
Renee's
to do that. 1,000%.
Gotta do it.
Everyone's like, you're starting another account. I'm like, this is for my retirement. This is what I'm gonna do. Okay?
Well, I liked when you guys went to that all inclusive. I was like, oh, I
yeah.
lived for those stories.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
towels being in what places.
Yes.
And those are key pieces of information that you would like to know.
100%.
Yeah.
And it's simple. Like a
Yeah.
hotel should hire me, be like, come here for a week. And I will lay out like everything that you could change simply to make your customers or, you know, people have a better experience.
Heard it here first.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just putting it up there. If there was, my sister's FaceTiming me, like, if there was a spaceship, I asked this to the skincare guy, and I was like, this is a fun question to ask everybody. If there was a spaceship that was like leaving tomorrow and they were like, you could go on and like go to space, would you go?
Sometimes I think about this because they're, you know how
Sometimes
they were
I think
saying that
about
people
this.
could go to space? Sometimes
Yeah.
I really do think, like, would you? I don't think I would go.
I wouldn't go.
Because
Like,
what
fuck
if you don't
that.
come back?
Yeah, like what's the point? Like there's
No.
probably not a lot to see. It's probably like
No.
dark and like who cares? Like
No.
no. I'll watch a YouTube show. Like
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel.
okay. And then my last question, who's your favorite housewife though?
That's so hard, but I think Kyle Richards.
Oh, interesting. What is it about her?
She's hilarious.
Yeah.
Also a really good time. And I think that she's not like so high maintenance like everyone else. Like sometimes they'll go on a trip and everyone will have glam except her, but she always still looks great and doesn't really give a fuck. And I kind of like that energy. Also, it might change if I know if they're together or not, but I feel like she's very family oriented and she like really cares about things that are important. I think some of the housewives are fun to watch because they don't give a shit about things that are important. They just care about like their outfits, which is really fun as a consumer, but not so relatable. So that's
well, I don't know who I like best. I like Melissa Gorga a lot.
I do like her.
I feel like she's always right.
She is.
Like she's always right. Like I take her side on everything.
Well, it's really hard to take Teresa's side.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
But like she just seems to like if I was going through what she was going through, I would probably react and do everything the exact same way. Like her thoughts, like I'm just like, yeah, like
yeah.
But yeah, I like her. Okay, well this was fun.
Yay,
do you
thanks.
enjoy podcasting?
Yeah, it was
okay,
nice.
cool.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you'll have to come back.
Yes, I will.
And I'm on a roll.